Okay, thank you very much, Vishal. Really appreciate it. Let me welcome everyone on behalf of Optimus and our strategic partner, JET. Today we'll be looking at IFRS 9 reporting because we've realized that as we've been working with our strategic partners and our clients, we've seen a lot of expressed interest or increased interest in seeing how can we assist them with IFRS 9 reporting. And what we want to demonstrate to you is that we were able to find a tool, that tool meaning Jet Reports, which allowed us to easily develop these reportings. So I know we want to dive right into it. So my role first today is to basically go through the IFRS 9 reporting requirements at a high level. And then from there, I'll be handing over to Aaron, who will guide you through some basics of the JET reporting. Now, first, let me apologize. I'm a little bit under the weather, so I'm hoping that you're able to hear. And also, I'm hoping that you're able to see my screen. If someone could just confirm whether they can see my screen or not. Are you able to see?
Yep.
Okay, beautiful. All right, so IFRS 9 requirements. So what really is IFRS 9? Well, you know that the IFRS is an international financial reporting standard, which is published by the International Accounting Standards Board, the ISAB. And when you're talking about IFRS 9, it generally contains three main topics. One, it deals with the classification and the measurement of financial instruments. It also deals with impairment of financial assets. And thirdly, hedge accounting. So this standard, this IFRS 9, it specifies how an entity should classify and measure financial assets. They also classify and measure financial liabilities and also some contracts to buy or sell non-financial items. And IFRS 9 therefore requires that an entity must recognize a financial asset or financial liability in its statement of financial position when it becomes part of the contractual provisions of the instruments. And at initial recognition, an entity measures a financial asset or financial liability always, or as best as possible, at its fair value. So let's look at one of the areas, which is impairment. Now, under impairment, there are three stages. Stage one, as soon as financial instrument is originated or purchased, you have to do an analysis over a 12-month period. So you have to analyze whether there will be a 12-month expected credit loss. And if those credit losses are recognized, they must be recognized in profit and loss, and a loss allowance be established. And this therefore serves as a proxy for the initial expectations of credit losses. Then move to stage two, where we're saying if the credit risk increases significantly and is not considered to be low, then full lifetime expected credit losses are recognized in the profit or loss. And then stage three, if the credit risk of a financial asset increases to the point that it is considered credit impaired, interest revenue is calculated based on amortized cost. That is the gross carrying amount less the loss allowance. Now, I'll just give one example of stages 2 and 3. When you're looking at impairment, you have to take into consideration other types of risks associated with your asset. So for instance, if we should choose an asset like receivables, one of the things you might have to take into consideration is government policy, or if there may be changes in government, or as in one of our clients in the Eastern Caribbean, one of the factors that they have to take into account is hurricanes. So they had to analyze and put a risk factor against the likelihood of hurricanes and the impact that such risks would have on their ability to collect on their receivables. So under IFRS 9, they also have to take, therefore, these kinds of risk factors into consideration. And by doing this, you're able to determine a true and fair representation of the amount that you need to carry as your provision for bad debt. So in summary, we're saying that the classification, the IFRS 9 classification, determines how financial assets and financial liabilities are accounted for in financial statements, and in particularly how they are measured on an ongoing basis. And IFRS 9 introduces a logical approach for the classification of financial assets, which is driven by cash flow characteristics and the business model in which the asset is held. And we're therefore saying that the new model also results in a single impairment model, which is applied to all financial assets, therefore removing a source of complexity associated with previous accounting requirements. So they're moving out, removing all factors which they considered complex and just coming up with a simple methodology to use, which is IFRS 9, to your assets and also your liabilities. So what I'd like to do at this moment is to just bring up an Excel spreadsheet here, which represents something which we did using a report which we did using the JET reporting capabilities. And this is just an example of this report, which is an IFRS 9 aged receivables report for a particular client. So if I just quickly at a high level summarize, what we're saying here for a reporting year of 2018, there had to be first, in step one, an analysis of payments on credit sales in 2017. So the idea is that if you are reporting on 2018, you use the historical data in 2017 and the performance in 2017 in order to project on the amount that you would need to have as your provision for bad debt in 2018. And this report is calculated by first looking at the total credit sales in 2017. And then based on the total credit sales in 2017, you evaluated the collections that were received, the aged collections which were received against those total credit invoices in 2017. And from that, you're able to come up with what is called a default rate using the amounts that have been outstanding at the end of 2017. From the default rates, you then apply your externalities. You may remember where I said that you had to take into consideration other risk factors. In this case, for this particular customer in the Eastern Caribbean island, they had to look at the employment rates, hurricane, and the change in government. And for them, these were three factors which were sufficient enough for them to take into consideration when determining what is the most appropriate amount to apply as a provision for bad debt. And based on these other external factors, they were able to come up with a revised rate. Let me just move this up a bit here. They were able to come up with a revised default rate. Good. And an expected credit loss. And these revised rates were then now applied in what we call the step two, where we analyze the receivables now for 2018, the year under review. And based on the aging and applying the default, the revised default rates, they then came up with an expected credit loss provision, a recommended expected loss provision using the IFRS 9 standard. So from this, they were able to easily determine a most appropriate amount to apply as your provision for doubtful debt using the IFRS 9 standard. So all this, we're able to do all this computation using a very good reporting tool that was able to do all of that in the background and hence prevent this client from having to do a lot of manual computation, etc. So without much further ado, after I've now showed you at a high level what we're able to do as far as the creating of this IFRS 9 report using JET, it is my pleasure now to hand you over to Aaron, who will now carry you to the next stage of our presentation. Aaron?
All right, thank you for that introduction, Steve. And good to meet you, everyone. My name's Aaron. I'm here with JET Global, and glad I can be here today. Always like to be able to assist with these kind of presentations, especially with great partners with like Optimus, who are able to bring value and educate on what you can get out of these IFRS reports, what the benefits are, what you need to do to be successful with them. And JET really kind of ties in nicely with this, as Steve was saying, because it's a tool that I think you're going to see really helps speed up that process. You can get these reports done in a timely manner. You can ensure that they're accurate, and then you can move on to other pressing needs for your business. And so I just want to start a couple kind of high level points. Anytime we're talking about compliance and regulation as it pertains to reporting, there's obviously a lot of needs, a lot of requirements, but those also tend to bring a lot of benefits to your organization. So I just like to highlight that having a strong IFRS reporting practice is going to lead to better usage of your financial data. Because it's standardized, it's going to be more comparable both to other organizations and to yourselves, measuring up, stacking up your own performance. There's also more visibility into your day-to-day operations, going to lead to improved performance there. You're able to, when you have these reports built out, you're able to see into the nuts and bolts of your organization, how things are working, how you can improve things day to day, how you can better manage resources. And then beyond that, you're primed for influxes of capital more easily when you're able to have easily comparable financial information and get that in the hands of investors. And so kind of with that in mind, where JET comes into play with this is that getting that data out of your ERP into these reports, we want to make sure that that's a process that you can replicate easily and effectively. And JET Reports helps a lot with that. You're going to have more accurate reports because you're not doing any kind of manual processes where you're manually pulling that data out of the system, copy and pasting each time you want to pull in new data. JET will pull the data direct from your ERP, so you can ensure that it's going to be accurate and it's going to be pulling in the information you need when you need it. And as you'll see, you can design these reports directly in Excel. So this isn't something where you're going to have to learn some new programming language, learn some new workflow. All of JET's functionality ties in real seamlessly with your typical Excel usage. So if you want to tie in formulas, charts and graphs, conditional formatting, all that kind of stuff, you're going to find that JET makes that an easy experience. You can get these reports built out, get the insights you need for your business, and make better decisions moving forward with it. And so let's kind of look at what these reports look like, what we can do with them. As I mentioned, you design these reports directly inside of Excel. So you're going to be able to build your reports to your exact specifications. So you can have your income statements, your balance sheets, your cash flows neatly organized right inside of Excel. They can be refreshed anytime you need to, so you can pull in the most up-to-date information as needed. And as we'll kind of look at when we dive in, a lot of these are based off of some pretty straightforward Excel functionality too. Like, for example, here we have an income statement broken out by month. We're just using a if statement combined with these JET functions to look at these and say, hey, if there's an actual, let's make sure we're pulling that in. And if not, let's just plug in our budgeted numbers so we can get some numbers on the page. We can forecast where we're looking to trend for the year. So we'll walk through some examples of how to build these out from scratch, but really that's the whole idea. You're going to be able to design these in the comfort of Excel, tie information directly from your ERP, so it's going to reduce errors. It's going to allow you to build these reports much faster. And from there, you can continue to find new ways to improve your business and keep things moving forward. And so let's start with an example. We'll start with a fresh one. We're right here in Excel. This is the JET ribbon at the top. This is where you're going to find all your formulas, inputs, anything unique to JET. And so we can refresh reports at any given time, pull in the most up-to-date information. We can drill into that information if we need to, either going directly into your ERP to get into your subledger detail, or you can open it up in grid view right in Excel. All these tools here, these are all different ways where you can essentially tell JET what data you want to pull from your database, what format you want that data returned in. And so you're going to find you can design reports to look the way you want them to include the data you want to be presented how you want them to. We can upload reports to the web portal. We can schedule automated distribution of these reports. So you want the reports to go out, financial packets going out start of each week, start of each month. You can set that to automatically distribute, saving you time and effort and making sure those reports are in the hands of those users when they need to be. And finally, as we'll touch on in a little bit, if you have multiple data sources, we're going to be able to help you out there. And if you have multiple companies, we can pull from those as well. But really the idea here that we're focusing on is you have important information out of Nav and Business Central. We're going to show how you can use that to design your IFRS reports. And let's start with this Fast Financials tool, appropriately named because there's really no quicker way to get your financial information out of your general ledger into your reporting. As you can see here, it gives us a live read-only view directly into our general ledger so we can see our accounts. We can pull in our balance information if we want to, include budget. Might as well grab variance over here, so we'll bring that in as well. And then if I wanted to pull this data into the report, say maybe I want to do a quick P&L, I can go ahead and scroll through these accounts and maybe I'll start with the revenue. I'll select that. I'll scroll through those, scroll through our cost and expense accounts as well. And I'm just going to shift click to grab this whole range of data and drag and drop it into my report. And so from there, it's going to query the live database and it's going to pull back that information right out of the ERP in this same format that we had laid out here. So we're going to get our data just as we'd seen it there. And from there, I could have pulled in some other chunks of data, but you see pretty quickly we have our information here. And we're in Excel. So if we want to customize this, we can do so using what should feel natural to us. Like say we want to we have just kind of this one data set that'll just give us our over that date period, but maybe we want to actually break this out month over month. I can just copy and paste these over. We'll split these out and then I can just go into here and whereas we had open date ranges here, if I wanted to just plug in these values, you can see that the cache data will update to reflect that. And you can just real seamlessly update these numbers with JET to customize them to your needs. So we go ahead, grab that. Now we have it broken out month by month. If we ever want to refresh the report, this one also created some report options out of the gate. This basically allows your users to refresh reports and filter the data. So maybe you want to break things out by one of your global dimensions. You could come into here, say maybe we want to focus on just a couple specific customer types, and you can allow users to slice and dice the data a bit right when they're pulling it into the report. And then from there, if we want to dive into these, get into the transactional detail, this arrow here, if we select a cell, will tell us we can drill into it, also available up here. And as I mentioned, with JET, you can have it go directly into the ERP. I'm gonna have it pull up in this grid view right here. And so we see all our transactions that make up that balance, as well as all the metadata associated with those transactions. And it's grabbing quite a bit there. So you can certainly pull some of these off if you don't want to see those, and JET will remember your user settings. You can also filter these, organize these. We can create groupings. We can, if we want to sort this by document type, we can break those out and separate those. Quite a few different ways you can slice and dice the data right within here. And then if that's not enough, you can also export it back into Excel for additional analysis on it. So that's one quick and easy example of getting some financial data into your reporting. But let's look if you already have something templated out. You already have a particular design. You really just want to fill the data in. This is one you can see clearly. We're going to be putting together another P&L, but this time we're going to be doing it across these account codes and we're going to be pulling from both of our companies and consolidating those. And so for this one, since I really want to fit the data specific to the report, I'm going to use a different tool. I'm going to use this GL function, which just gives me a little more flexibility into how I want to set this up. And so when I open this up, simple set of questions. First one basically wants to know, what kind of data would you like to return? We can pull balance information, budget detail, our credits and debits. I'm going to take advantage of the fact that we kind of have all this detail laid out around this, and I'm just going to start cell referencing. So I can tie this to the balance there. For the accounts, we do have a live read-only view. Again, we can preview this data. I can start Control-Shift-clicking and grabbing accounts. We also have all these different operators available. So if you want to grab a range of accounts, if there's a specific one you want to exclude, you have that flexibility. But we've already got them hard-coded on the side here. I'm just going to go ahead and grab that. And then we'll do the same idea with the start and end date. We'll go ahead and grab those. And then same with company as well. And then now, last thing we'll do, we want to flip that sign on this one. I can just go ahead and just stick a minus sign in front of the whole jet function. There we go. And now I can just drag and drop this and populate the rest of my report here. We'll go ahead and copy and paste it, bring it down through here. And so because I use cell referencing, I can just populate the entire report with one function, easily filling in the data. To get the consolidated view, I can just go ahead and sum these real quick and easy. And then, so not only did it take me no time at all to get this report put together once I had the framework built out, but if I want to tweak things, change the accounts, pull in different account codes, I can go ahead and update those. So if I want to modify these reports, it's a very easy experience. Same if we want to actually grab a different date range. Say maybe we only wanted to look at the first half of the year. And so this gives you a tool that's really flexible, becomes really easy to create different versions of the reports. If you want to batch out from different companies, different departments, anything you're utilizing your dimensions for, you can use cell referencing to really easily modify, essentially create different versions of the report just by updating a single cell within it. And on top of that, Jet has a lot of pre-built reports available right out of the box. This is one of those. You see there again, if you want to fit this sample report to your business, you just hop into design mode. We have directions on exactly how you would go about modifying this to build in your chart of accounts. And a lot of times it's just plugging in different values here, putting in different values to make sure your chart of accounts aligns with what the report is pulling in. And so that's a couple examples of your financial data. I know that for many of you, that's not your only reporting need out of the ERP though. So let's look at another way that we can access some of this data and bring it into the report so you can get visibility into it. For this example, I'm going to pull open this browser tool. And this one's very popular because it just gives you a real clean, easy view into your ERP. You can see all your different tables. If you have custom SQL views, you can access those as well. You can preview data. And here we're really showing the limitations of my sample database here because you'll see real quickly whether there's values to pull in from it or not. And so as far as getting this data into the report, I'll use this customer table because I know there is good data there. And if I want to pull some of this into the report, maybe want some quick customer or vendor information, I can just go ahead and start selecting these. So we'll grab their number, their name. Let's get their state. And then we'll go ahead and grab their sales year to date. We could have also grabbed company codes, but I think most of these customers are US in the sample database. So we'll drag and drop this in. We'll go ahead and hit run. And you see right there, we have our data. It's not the cleanest data set. A bunch of these accounts don't have any sales tied to them. Even more don't have a state associated with them. So we want to clean this up, make this a little more presentable. So let's go back into design mode and let's turn this into a real report. You see here, these are the fields it's pulling in, but in this hidden column, this is actually the function that tool created. And so we can open it up and we can modify this now. You see it's pretty simple in this example. We're returning data across rows, pulling from this table, pulling in these fields. And we'll use these filters to clean up the data a bit, but I just want to highlight there's a whole host of different ways you can return data with this tool. So if you need to filter the data as it's coming through, break out any data point out of your ERP across rows, columns, or even sheets. You can create lookups, you can link multiple tables together. Just a lot of tools to make sure that you can design the reports the way you need to with the information you need to. But as I mentioned, I just really want to filter this data a bit. I want to clean it up. So I'll go ahead, we'll scroll down through here. I'm going to grab sales. We'll start by filtering it by that. Again, I can preview these values. We'll say maybe we'll cut it off at 100,000. So I'll just say, let's only see those with a balance greater than 100,000. And then I'm also going to filter by state. And I think I saw there were some West Coast states here, so I'll grab those. But again, you know, these could be company codes. This could be really, you can filter off of any field within the table since it's a relational database, even if you're not necessarily reporting against it. You saw once I did that, the cache data update to reflect that. And then we're in Excel. If we want to build out, you know, maybe we want to build out a commission calculation, we can plug that in. I could go ahead and total these. I could go ahead and do a little bit of formatting. This might be a good one to stick a chart and graph to, so let's do that. I can just go ahead and select this column, and we will tie a chart to that. And then last thing I'll do, you may have noticed these keywords across the top. We're hiding this column since it just holds that formula. And then this fit command automatically adjusts the columns to match the information within them. And then if we feel good about this, I can go back, run the report, and we have our filtered data set. We have this nicely cleaned up. We have our calculations. We have our chart populated. And so anytime I refresh this report from here on out, I'm going to get my calculations and my chart populated with that new data. So again, Excel tying in just really easily with JET, and so they communicate and work together to make sure you're getting reports that are have the data you need, have the insights you need. And so this is going to be really, JET Reports is going to be a fantastic tool for building out all your IFRS reports directly out of NAV or Business Central. But some of you have have data sources beyond that. Maybe you have warehousing software, payroll, point of sale, maybe inventory systems, CRMs. You know, organizations nowadays, you're finding more and more they need multiple solutions, multiple databases to hold all the information about running their business. And so I want to talk about how we can address these same kind of needs for users that are in that scenario. And really the best way to do that is by leveraging a business intelligence solution. And that's kind of the next step with JET Analytics. It takes everything you just saw of design reports right in Excel with refreshable data straight from the ERP, and we build upon that by adding a data warehouse and cubes for instantaneous reporting, accurate governed data for one version of the truth across your whole organization. And it also allows us to pull in data from multiple data sources and create one unified data set. So all your CRM data, all your warehouse data, all your dynamics data, they're all living together and speaking together. Makes for reporting against all of it very easy and straightforward. And so just kind of walking through real quick what we do when we're talking about a business intelligence process is we start with your ERP, your Dynamics database. It's a complex web of tables and fields. They all have specific relationships between them. And it's not disorganized, but it can be a bit of a data overload. There's a lot of information in there, and you may not be trying to report against all of it. And so what we do is we funnel that data into a data warehouse where we organize it by subject matter, and we only bring in the relevant information, the information that matters. This would also be where we'd tie in those additional data sources. So the CRM, the warehousing, point of sale, payroll, what have you. We can tie all that in and create one complete data set. And that's where a lot of tools stop. We take it one step further by funneling those into cubes, which add dimensionality and really give us every value we could possibly need, pre-calculated in every combination possible. What that really means is if you have important metrics, key performance indicators that matter to your business, you can build that logic into the data model. And so they're automatically calculated the way you want them to. This can also apply if you're heavy into multiple currencies, if you have need to manage intercompany transactions and consolidations. There's just a lot of tools you can build into this to automatically get that information. And so when you're talking about BI solution, that's really where the value lies. It's in that data model. And Jet is unique in how we don't do this. Since we're Dynamics focused and we've done hundreds of these implementations for Nav and Business Central, we found that 80–90% of what users want out of their database is pretty common across all users. And so we actually have a pre-built project with a pre-built data warehouse and cubes for sales, finance, inventory, AP, AR, even purchasing, that install right out of the box. And then we can customize beyond that, tying in those additional data sources, building in those custom metrics to make sure that data works for your business. And then from there, you can consume it however you'd like, whether that's in Excel, using Jet, whether it's using Microsoft's Power BI, or really any other tool. But again, that value is in the data model. And so let's look at what this looks like and how this can help improve your reporting. I'm going to go ahead and create a new workbook here. I'm going to go back into the Jet ribbon, and I'm going to go ahead and connect to the demo cubes here. And so I'm going to go ahead and we'll open up a pivot table. Pivot tables work great with the cubes, but you're not limited to them. You'd still have these other tools. And I'm going to connect to this sales cube because I know there's good data there. And you see on the right now, we're no longer looking at our traditional table and field structure. Instead, what we're looking at are called measures and dimensions. Measures being your numerical values, dimensions being anything that's going to give relevance and meaning to those numbers. So when we're talking about measures, could be talking about unit counts, item quantities, sales amounts, and then dimensions are going to be things like your customer information, company details, item categories, salespeople, all that kind of stuff. And so let's say I wanted to see some long string of data, like I want to be able to see my sales, my cost, my profit, broken out by my different item categories, by salesperson, maybe by location, by company. It sounds like a lot of work, probably already thinking that's something that's got to tie from at least multiple tables, if not multiple systems. But with Jet Analytics, everything's done in the back end, all the heavy lifting. I can just start checking some of these boxes and get my data. So we go ahead and grab cost, we'll grab our sales, our profit percent. Go ahead and scroll down through here. Let's also go ahead and bring in our different item categories. Let's bring in our posting dates. And then let's add some slicers. Maybe we want to break this out by our different locations. Maybe we have salespeople tied to them. Maybe we don't. We want to bring in companies, perhaps attach some Excel-based dashboards to this. And so you saw that I was really able to just check a few boxes, not thinking about where that data lived, just what outputs did I want? And I got that real quick and easy. I can slice and dice this data, get instantaneous insights that way, break this out however I want to. And then on top of that, there's these rollouts and rollups. So we can get into the individual items, individual in these and see if we want to, we could even double click and get into our drill down. So becomes a much easier reporting process. Users don't need to know where that data lives in the database, how they need to link those tables together. They just need to know what they want to get out of it. And so we find that in particular, if multiple data sources, that's a great need for this, but also if you're finding that you have bottlenecks in your reporting, because there's a limited number of users who understand the ERP to report against it. We'll do one more example here in case we want to. This time, maybe let's look at another one of these cubes. I'll go ahead and connect to the payables cube for this one. And maybe I just want to put together an aging report and I want to break this out a couple different ways. First, we'll set one up for local currency. So I'll go ahead and select my amount. I'll grab my aging buckets. We'll go ahead and let's see here. Let's go ahead and We'll apply a filter for whether we're grabbing open accounts or not. Let's pull this aging bucket to be broken out by columns. And then let's see our vendors broken out by our vendor posting groups. Okay. And then finally, let's just add a couple slicers back into this. So maybe we want to break this out by currency, and let's also split this out across our different companies. And so what may have taken me hours, days to do manually, hours to do with a live reporting tool, with analytics, took me a few clicks, and makes it much easier to slice and dice the data as well. And I could go ahead and do the same thing on another sheet if we wanted to maybe break this out a little differently. Maybe we want to see this actually presented by our currencies. So I'll go ahead and connect to the payables. We'll go ahead and we'll kind of break this out the same way. This time I'll grab the transaction currency rather than the local currency. We'll bring that in. We'll grab our aging buckets again, pull those out by columns. We'll go ahead and bring in our currency. And then let's go ahead and add our filter. And then we'll bring in our Pay2 vendor. Okay, and there we go. And then if we want to put in a company slicer, we can do that way. But real quick and easy, broke out our accounts payables two different ways. So whether we want to break it out by the local currency or by the, or like this, we can easily lay those out, see where things sit in our different aging buckets and get our data. So really helps speed up that process. And then the last thing that it really does, analytics, is if you're trying to look into data visualization. That's something we're seeing more and more organizations looking towards, just because it provides a much more intuitive way to look at the data. We're visual learners for many of us. We thrive on pattern recognition, being able to see trends in the data. And so data visualization gives us some great resources to do that. So let's look at how an analytics solution can help with that. I'll start by just showing you what it looks like if you wanted to try to connect to Power BI to your ERP directly. You're going to find it's not an intuitive process at all, not very user-friendly. If I go ahead and open up this nav database here, you can see we still have to pick which tables we want to bring into this dashboard. We have to identify any linkages we want to between those. We have to load and transform the data and prepare it to be brought into the dashboarding. Really just quite a process. You're not ready to go once you've installed this tool unless you have a data warehouse and cube set up like Jet Analytics. I'll show what it looks like alternatively when we connect directly to the cubes. I can just go ahead and connect to that sales cube we looked at earlier. And that's all I had to do. I selected that cube. We see we have our measures and dimensions brought back into here just like we did before. And now dashboarding becomes a breeze. If I want to go ahead and I can usually, for most dashboard panes, it's going to be pick a visual, pick a measure, and then tie that to a dimension. So maybe we'll tie this one to sales by salesperson. Maybe we'll do another one where we break that out by our different item categories. So we'll do, oops, want that tied to this one, sales by item category. And as I mentioned, big draw of these data visualization tools is to use them for trend analysis, detecting possible seasonality, any trends that may be available to uncover to your business. Let's go ahead and maybe we want to break this out by quarter as well, see if there's any kind of seasonality there. And then Power BI has some really impressive visuals too, like this map, which we can maybe just use we want to see where our most profitable customers are. So we'll go ahead and break out profit by city, and it gives us weighted circles there so we can see not just where the sales are happening, but where the majority of them are. And now we can interact with the data. So if we want to start to dig in on individual sales reps, see where they're having success, maybe we want to focus on where are different item categories being sold most frequently, which ones to focus on in any given time of the year. And so you can do more with your data. It makes it just a really natural way to be able to uncover new information about your data, new insights around it, and it can be a really great resource to complement your reporting practice. And so as we've kind of looked at today, JET provides a handful of ways to help improve your reporting, whether you're using JET reports to automatically pull live data directly out of your ERP, right into Excel in the format you want to present it in, or whether your data demands are maybe a little more involved. Maybe you have multiple data sources you need to connect to. Maybe you need a little more work to get that data ready to report against. JET Analytics is going to help you get there along the way. And then if you want to stack any of those tools with things like Power BI or other dashboard builders, you can do that as well. I'm just kind of showing as we wrap up here just a couple of our other cubes. We have this one pulling from our inventory cube. We have another one here that's pulling from your financials. And for those of you that use LS Retail, we have custom cubes for that as well that we've worked closely with Optimus on. And so we have you covered there as well. And so I hope this was informative. Hope you've seen that these tools can help you get your IFRS reports created much quicker and then allow you to easily batch those out, refresh them as needed, and just make sure that that data is in the hands of the users it needs to be when it needs to be. And so with that, I would like to thank you for your time today and turn it back over to the folks at Optimus to close out and any Q&A and any additional detail they wanted to add.
Okay, thank you very much, Aaron. Really enjoyed your presentation. I hope that everyone enjoyed what we presented today. So we're just going to go through a period now of question and answers. If you should look at the bottom of your screen, you should see an icon called chat. That's where you'll be able to post any questions for either Aaron or myself, and we'll try as best as possible to answer. I'm sure we can, but if not, we'll be more than happy to take your information and do what necessary research is possible or that is required to get the answer to you. So are there any questions?